I was really rooting for this show. Lovecraft Country. Man, when I first heard of this, I was like, okay, you're mixing the cosmic horror of H.P. Lovecraft with the 1950s racism. And it's being done by HBO. HBO, I feel like, I mean, the production quality is always there. It's usually well executed, whatever they do. You know they're going to take it seriously. It's not going to be corny or cheesy or, you know, HBO usually produces quality stuff. And this is well made, but man, was I bored. I mean, okay, I've heard great things about the book. Maybe I'll read the book and that'll be better. But I think what killed it for me was just how formulaic the episodes are. So I watched 3 episodes and I had a DNF. Can you DNF a TV show? Yeah, I think usually that's a term we use for books, right? You read 50 pages, you're not into it, you DNF the book, you put it down and say, it's not for me. That happened to me about 3 episodes in because I started seeing a pattern. It starts to become very predictable. You see the pattern and you see the way things go, and it's just not hitting how you would like it to. Like, okay, I'm going to talk about there's going to be there'll be spoilers for the first 3 episodes because that's as far as I got. But I just have to warn you because I'm going to talk about those. So there will be spoilers for the first 3 episodes. Every episode, it seems like you have the characters come across some really just incredibly racist people in 1950s America. So the story takes place in Chicago in the 1950s, and they do some traveling. So they're around the northeastern United States. But yeah, so the characters they encounter these incredibly racist people. So that immediately makes you root for our trio of protagonists here, right? So you go, okay, people are being really messed up. It pisses you off. And you just, and there's an element of horror and suspense there, right? There's this element, man, if you lived during that time, would you be afraid to go out at night? Would you be afraid to, just go to other parts of the town? Like, just traveling, like, there's an element of racial terror. Like, it's a very specific kind of feeling. It's like Get Out, right? And which makes sense because Jordan Peele is working on this. And I think that's an effective element. But, but okay, so after that happens, after people be super racist to them and you're like, oh man, like, I'm rooting for, Atticus and Letitia effing Lewis and her uncle, and his uncle. And it's like, so then they're going, and then they run into something supernatural, and the supernatural element absolutely slaughters and butchers the racist people. And you think, okay, yeah, that's like, sure. Like, it's a little abrupt. Like, it have like the violent stuff happens, and you're like, yeah, like, oh man, you're like, whoa, that's crazy. You're like, whoa, that's really intense. You get all excited. And then 3 episodes in, you see the same pattern over and over again. That supernatural element that comes in and does some violent stuff doesn't usually happen until the very end of the episode. So episode 1, you have these 2-legged creatures crawling through the dirt, and they're roaming the forest and have big mouths and fangs and things like that. And they end up killing the racist white highway patrolman. And it's like, for just that setup and that payoff, like, okay, that's something, but it's not enough. But outside of that, it just doesn't feel like it has any depth. I mean, Atticus, he just seems like a regular guy, like the most just regular, boring dude. Like, they hinted at him having like a haunted past. Like, there's something where it looks like he abandoned a girlfriend in another country or something. But it's just like, okay, like, I don't know. it just didn't hit. And then the second episode, they come across this like cult like organization, and at the end, some supernatural stuff happens, and this whole castle building gets destroyed. And okay, and for me, Atticus was just not really an interesting character. You have Leticia, Letty effing Lewis. She was the most interesting character in the story. She was, she's conflict. She doesn't back down. You know, she'll fight. She's sassy. She's interesting. But I don't think she can carry the show. Then you have the uncle character, which I forget his name. But I don't want to spend any more time on this series. The uncle character, he seemed interesting. He was really into books. He had all this knowledge, and they kill him off in the second episode. And it's just like man, I remember earlier in that episode, it looks like they're gonna kill off Letty, and I was thinking, oh man, what a mistake, because if this would have happened a few episodes later, maybe this would have had a lot of impact, and I would have been like, oh man, that would have provided the emotional entertainment aspect, right? That would have provided the emotional punch that you would need for a moment where a major character dies. And I was like, what a mistake to do it in the second episode. It was a pump fake. She doesn't really die in the second episode. And I'm like, oh, good. Okay, cool. And then at the end of the episode, the uncle dies. And it's like, what a mistake. Like, I didn't feel anything. Like, man, that would have been sad in like episode 6 or 7, maybe, you know? Build it up more, stretch it out. And then it's like, so you kill off an interesting character, one that I personally was getting to like. And then it's like, so you're left with Atticus. He's just kind of boring. Man, I don't know. Man, Atticus just didn't really seem interesting. And I know I've had people tell me that the last few episodes are really interesting and really good. But if I have to wait till episode 7, 8, or 9 for it to get real exciting, then it's kind of a boring series. That doesn't make it a great series. I know the whole thing's out now, but and I should have probably watched the whole thing and then put up a review, right? But each episode's like an hour long, and I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. After episode 3, there was some interesting things. The house was haunted. It was a little creepy, which is cool and all, but even the ghosts, like at the end of it, they looked a little corny. Like I was kind of laughing. Like it just didn't have the emotional punch I wanted it to. I think when I was watching something like this, yes, you have the racial tension, but it seems like, but that's it. Like there's supernatural creatures kind of thrown in. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I just didn't want to watch any more of the series. And I feel like when you DNF a book or a show or something like that, normally I don't want to talk about it, but if I am going to make this channel and talk about, fantasy and horror and talk about the things I like, so you can understand where I stand on the things I don't like, I feel like it's important also. I feel like it's important to show the things that I didn't like also. I mean, how can I be critical of anything if I only talk about the things I like? You know? So this wasn't like a terrible show. It was just kind of boring. It had some moments. Like I said, the racial tension stuff was tense. It was suspenseful. You feel invested, like, oh man. But outside of that, there just wasn't any depth. I mean, even the villains, like, okay, they seem like they're hollow shells of just like, they're bad and racist. Okay. You don't see where they're coming from. They don't have any sort of objective. It's not like I feel like a good villain thinks they're the good guy. They're out there doing things, and sure, and these villains, they're just racist. They're just racist white people, and that's it. And it's like a shell of a character. It's not a complete character. I might read the book. I heard good things about the book. I wanted to get into more H.P. Lovecraft. I really want to read The Cult of Cthulhu. I know there's some controversy over whether or not H.P. Lovecraft is racist or how racist he is. I know some were saying he was kind of a hermit, never left the house, never talked to other people, and was never exposed to other cultures really. But I'm not going to go too much into that. I know his works had a big impact on the horror genre, so I'd like to check out at least one of them to see what it's about, to see what it's about. But man, oh God, the show just wasn't, for me, the show was just kind of boring. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. Did you like it? Did you watch it? Do you plan on watching it? Let's talk about it. So to recap, I thought this season was boring. I'm not going to keep watching it. Maybe if something really exciting happened, maybe I'll watch the last couple episodes and go back and check it out, but I doubt it. It was just too much of a pattern to follow. You just see the pattern and then, okay, you know how it's going to go. And it just didn't have the emotional hit that I would want out of something like this. But yeah, let me know what you thought. Until next time, later.